Hello everyone, welcome to ART171 two-dimensional design. And before I get started, I have to say that I'm very sorry that we have to meet like this. I was supposed to be back in US last week, but my flight kept getting canceled. So if you're watching this video, that means that I did not make it on time. So one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video is that so that I can introduce myself to you guys and also introduce the course itself, so that you guys can can see what to expect from this class. So let's get right in. So to introduce myself, my name is Johan, and I'm from South Korea. And I moved to United States when I was about 15 years old. Well, actually, I am in South Korea right now. So that is what it looks like in South Korea. I'm in my hotel room right now, but that is what it looks like. But anyway, and this winter I went to Helsinki to visit my partner, and then we both came back to South Korea, and then spent the holidays with the family, my girlfriend's family, of course. So after that, I was supposed to be back in US around January 8th, but with the current chaos with the airline right now because of the new COVID variant, my flight keep getting canceled, and then I'm still here. Hopefully that I'll be back during the this weekend so that I can see you guys on Tuesday. But I believe that I should be able to. So, other than that, I studied sculpture in North Carolina. I went to UNCG for my BFA, Bachelor's in Fine Art, and I also went to East Carolina University for my master's. I both studied fine art, specializing in sculpture. So, if you're interested in transferring to either of those classes, UNCG or ECU, I mean schools, UNCG or ECU, you can always, just stop by during my office hour and ask me questions. I can share some my opinions and different my ideas on those two, probably the largest fine art schools in North Carolina. So other than that, I am very interested in different technology. I've been teaching Adobe suites for quite a bit of time. I am very interested in digital design, digital media, content creations, and also computer-aided design and manufacturing, such as 3D printing and CNC millings. So if you have an interest in that, you can also ask me a couple questions as well. All right, so that is about it. So by the time I get back to US and then meet you guys on Tuesday, we can do the introduce to each others again on a Tuesday class. So I look forward for that. All right, so to introduce this class, what we are going to be doing this class, we are mainly going to be working on different projects. So this course is a studio class, and so this course is structured around different design projects that will require your artistic skills, creativity, and last but not least, craftsmanship. So this is going to be a very fun class. So that does not mean there's no lectures, of course. There are going to be several lectures covering basic concepts of art and design. And so it is important for you to understand them as well. And I promise that these lectures will not be too long. And most of the times, the concepts that we're going to cover is going to be directly related to the projects that we're going to work on afterward. So actually, the first class of the class is going to be a short lecture. So it is going to, I promise it's not going to be too long. All right, so there is also going to be weekly assignments, and assignments are a significant portion of the overall grade. So make sure to submit the assignments on time. So assignments will be due on beginning of every Tuesday class, which means that you have whole weekend to work on it. So that should give you the enough time. And oftentimes assignments shouldn't take too much time. I want you to work on your projects. I want you to invest a lot of your time on projects, not assignments. So most of the times assignments are just kind of a supplementary exercise to your projects. So that shouldn't take too much time. All right, so other than that, we are going to have fun creating awesome works for sure. And I hope that you'll enjoy this class. I tried very hard to design this class as engaging and fun as possible. So we definitely are going to have fun. And I noticed that this is the good number of students for this class. So there is going to be a number of group projects as well. And yeah, so a class critiques as well. So you will get to know each other very well. And yeah, it should be a very fun class. So let's dive into the syllabus, ICR. All right, so let's take a look at the syllabus. So it's recording. I'm gonna hide this so you guys can see it better. All right, so this is ICR or syllabus for the ART171 two-dimensional design. So semester year is spring 2020, and that is my name right there. And this is section 01, so this is only class that is offered under this title. And class meeting time is Tuesday, Thursday, 11:10 a.m. to 1:50 p.m. So this is a long class, and also the lunch time is in between. So I will give you guys some break time so that you guys can go to the run to cafeteria and grab some snacks or something like that. But that does not mean that I'll give you like 30 minutes or an hour lunchtime. So make sure to eat before the you arrive to this class, because otherwise you are going to get hungry. All right. Let's talk about the office hours. So my office hour is not final yet, but it is going to be either Tuesday or Thursday. This right here, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., which is an hour before the this class starts. So if you have any questions or if you need any kind of a help, just stop by during this time, and I'll be able to help you out with whatever you need. And if you're not available during this time, just send me an email so that we can, make an appointment and then take a look at what you need. And then my office location is going to be LP 106, so which is the classroom that you guys are sitting in right now. So I will be sitting in this class an hour right before the this class, so you can always stop by and ask for help or question. All right, and this is my phone number. So this is text-only phone number. I will not be answering this your call because I just can't, because this is text-only cell phone number. So this is the fastest way to reach out to me, because we are just glued to these smartphones this day, right? So if you need any kind of urgent help, if you have just like a quick question that you need to be answered right away, you can always send me a text to this email. I should be able to get back to you within 30 minutes or so. And if you have any important questions, or if other than anything else, I encourage you to send me an email so that we keep the records of our conversation. So that is my email address right here, jhan@richmondcc.edu. I am fairly good at answering emails. I should get back to you within 24 hours, even during weekends. I have kind of like a thing for the checking emails. I check emails every 15 minutes. It has become like a habit. I don't know why, but anyway. But if you don't get a response from me within 24 hours, just send me another one, and I should be able to get back to you. All right, so let's take a look at the method of instruction and evaluation. So let's take student learning outcomes. First, analyze the language and process of 2D methods. Understand and apply the elements and principle of composition. This needs to be periods right there. All right, so we're going to learn this through lecture, video, online materials, assignments, and projects. So we're going to get right into this first student learning outcomes, which we're going to talk about the basic elements of art. The visual elements. So we are going to have a quick lecture, and then successful performance behavior indicator for this is creating a creative and unique composition, implementing the elements and principle of design. All right, and then second learning outcomes is going to be gaining hands-on experience with a variety of materials and tools through the completion of projects. So like I said, this class is going to be constructed around the several projects. So you're going to have more traditional way of making artwork, such as like coloring and cutting things and pasting onto something else, and mixed media and etc. But also you're going to learn how to use the digital technology to create an artwork. So it is going to be very challenging, but at the same time it is going to be very entertaining. So yeah, it should be fun. And again, it's going to be method of instruction is going to be lectures, videos, online materials, assignments, etc. So I will be having like a demo days on, for instance, if we are learning like a Adobe Illustrator, of course you are going to need some kind of a demonstration. So I will announce these demo days, and I strongly suggest that you don't miss this class because I don't want to do the demo again. Usually demos last about like an hour, and also you guys are going to be like doing mini exercise that is due at the end of the class or at the beginning of the next class. So if you missed on the demo days, it is up to you to make up for the things that you missed. So you're going to go through like I mean, obviously I'll help you all with that, but you're going to have to kind of learn it yourself, which is actually the best way to learn, but at the same time, it might be a little bit more time consuming. So if you want to save time, I suggest that I strongly suggest that you be present for the demo days. All right, third, developing projects according to their own interests using the methods and materials prescribed. So we are going to be talking about the required materials for this class. So let's move on. And also, last but not least, develop and maintain a digital portfolio. So this means that you are going to have to learn how to create a professional level of digital portfolio with your artworks and your designs. So you're going to learn how to export certain digital files, or at the same time you're gonna be encouraged to take a high quality photo, and then also you're gonna learn a little bit about photo editing to make your photos look much better. So we're going to be doing this at the very end of the class, at the very end of the course, right before the summer break. All right, so let's take a look at the class schedule. So this is tentative, meaning that it is subject to be changed. So first week we're going to take a look at the visual elements. If you take a look at this schedule, you'll see that there's going to be exercise. Also, there's going to be a project as well. But you can expect to have a weekly assignments. I didn't include that because it is kind of a meaningless to just include it only each week. So this is going to be a rough schedule that we're going to I will try to follow. But sometimes students need more time on their projects, or sometimes students just finish their projects too early. So if that happens, I will make a little bit of a change to this schedule. As you can see, there's like using digital design tools, and you guys are going to be learning Adobe Composition CC, Adobe Illustrator, etc. So make sure to be on these demo days for these two. And then critique and portfolio, we're going to work on the week 15 and 16th, which is the very end of the course, end of the semester, towards the end of the semester. All right, so this is just university stuff. So how your work is going to be graded and how the grading scale works. So A is this Richmond Community College uses 10-point scale. So 90 to 100 is A, and 80 to 89 is B, and etc. All right, so this is all. Why is it blue? Aha. All right, so there's cheating and also plagiarism with the COVID, and then a lot of classes being online. This was a huge deal during the last semester and the semester before. So make sure that you don't copy someone else's, or you don't copy from someone else, such as like a Disney, because Disney is very strict about that. They will sue you and hunt you down, even if you're just college student. So be careful with that. And then blah blah blah. You can if you're welcome to read through this ICR, of course, and by the time you all probably should be familiar with all this. All right, so let's take a look at the course specific evaluation criteria. So this class consists 5 to 6 different projects. So that is 60% of the overall grade, and then also 30% of the assignments. 30% of the grade is the assignments. So that means the small exercises that we're going to be doing in class, and also the weekly assignments, and time to time I will be giving you guys additional assignments. So these assignments are not, like I said, are not going to be that time consuming, but still it is important for you to complete all the assignments because it is 30% of your grade. So even if you ace all the projects, the best grade that you can get is 60 and 10, which is 70, which is barely a C. But I have a tendency of not giving 100 for a lot of for student projects. I don't know why I do that, but it is something that I've been working on. So if you miss all the assignments, the best grade that you can get is going to be D or D plus. So make sure to submit assignments. All right, assignment policy. Late work will not be accepted for any online hybrid assignments, meaning that a lot of assignments I'm going to be posting on the Moodle. But late work, I'm a reasonable person. I mean, so if you have any kind of a late work, if it is not too late, you can always send me an email and we can talk about it. And then maybe I'll accept the late work. So of course there is going to be a penalty. You're not going to be able to get a perfect score, but still something is better than zero. My old professor used to say, F is much better than zero. F is still 50%. So if you just don't turn it in as an assignment, you just get an F. I mean, you just get a zero. But if you do something and then turn it in something, even if you get an F, you still get like 50 or 30, which is still a lot better than zero. So make sure to turn in every assignment. And also, if you need more time on assignment, just send me an email or let me know in advance, then so that we can work things out. All right, demo activities cannot be made up. Like I said, on the demo days, we are going to do a little bit of a in-class assignments, such as, so for instance, if we are learning how to use the Adobe Illustrator, we are going to be doing like a small exercise, how to make shapes and etc. So if you miss demo days, you cannot make up that exercise. So you must be present for announced demo days. Excuse me. And grades are issued on a 10-point scale for this course. We already talked about this. And your average for the course will be available throughout the semester on the course's Moodle gradebook page. So I try to keep the grades books updated as much as possible. But it's not that I'm gonna be grading every week. I try to grade every week, bi-weekly. So. And also, I'll send out an announcement if I make an update to the gradebook, so that you guys can go into Moodle and check your grade. All right, so attendance policy. This is very important. So this is studio class. So I understand that some classes don't have the attendance policy, but I do, and this is very important, and I take it very seriously. Sadly, I had to flunk someone because of the assignment policy last semester. She did everything. She actually did a great job on the project, but she just missed too many classes, and I just couldn't, pass her. So that was very, devastating, on her. All right, so students are allowed 3 absences for the course. Exceeding 3 absences due to any reason, this is very important, will result in a final grade deduction of 10 points, 1 letter grade, for each excessive absences. So, and also 2 tardies count as 1 absence. But, being late for a minute or two, I'm not going to count it as a tardy. But if you're late for like 30 minutes, yes, it is going to be counted as a tardy. And the reason why I said this is important, due to any reason, the university does not distinguish between excused and unexcused absence. A lot of students get confused with this. So no matter what the reason is, maybe the family emergency, or you got into an accident or whatever, it's still, or your car broke down, doesn't matter. It's all same. It's just absences. And only 3 absences allowed for entire semester. So I strongly suggest that you save up these absences, because with the pandemic going on, you might be able to quarantine yourself, and if you already used up all your 3 absences, things can get quite complicated. But that does not mean that that does not mean that you should show up if you're sick. So if you are in that situation, either you tested positive for COVID or you had a close contact to someone who tested positive for COVID, just send me an email and then we're gonna work things out. But that does not mean that you can use this as an excuse to just have countless number of absences. The student that I talked about last semester, she used the COVID as the excuse to miss a lot of classes, and that is, after certain number of absences, I was like, it was unacceptable. So yes, we are in a very unique and very difficult situation at this moment because of the pandemic. But still, you should not use that for unlimited amount of absences or skipping classes, so to say. So yeah, but I say 3 absences, but at the same time, I'm a reasonable person. So if you have a legitimate reason why you missed more than 3 absences, you can always let me know well in advance. It is not going to work if you try to talk to me at the end of the semester, towards the end of the semester. You should let me know in advance about your situation. You might have certain health conditions and etc. Emergency in families and things like that. Let me know well in advance so that we can work things out, so that I can assign you like a alternative assignment or something like that. All right, if you exceed your allowed absence to the point where you are going to fail the course, it is up to you to withdraw from the course to avoid receiving an F. So I was surprised that a lot of students does not know about this. So if you go into the Google and search Richmond Community College academic calendar, and you will see that there is a date for last day to withdraw. So if you withdraw before that date, you can drop the class without any kind of penalty. So it is not going to have any negative impact on your GPA. So if you think you're gonna fail this class, or you're not satisfied with the grade that you currently have, and you wanna give it another try next semester, I strongly suggest that you withdraw from the class. Because if you get an F, it is after that after number of F, trying to increase your GPA to transfer to a certain college can get quite difficult. So make sure that if you are not doing so well, or if you have certain other circumstances that prevents you from successful completion of this class, I strongly suggest that you withdraw the class before the date that is posted on the academic calendar for this semester. Okay, so COVID information and requirements. So, all right, so let's take a look at COVID information and requirements. So COVID-19 guidance provided by either the school or government agencies, CDC, will be strictly enforced. So at the time of writing this, mask mandate is still in place for all students. So you are required to wear a mask and face covering that fully covers your mouth and nose at all times while attending class. So you will be asked to leave the classroom if you fail to follow this, and then and if this happens, it'll be counted as absence. If you are feeling sick, fever, chill, shortness of breath, sore throat, etc., do not come to campus or class. Instead, contact me via phone or email and seek appropriate medical attention. So if you, like I said, if you already missed 3 classes and then you are concerned about about the grade penalty due to the absences, but you feel sick, still just don't come to the class and just send me an email, and then we can work things out. I'll give you a alternative assignment that you can do to make up for your attendance. And these alternative assignments, sounds easy, but a lot of times I intentionally made it so that it is actually it takes right about same amount of time, usually 3 to 4 hours to complete. So even if you skip a class and use the COVID as excuse, that does not mean that you will have to pay back that time. So please don't use the COVID as excuse to get a limited amount of absences. It's just to be honest, I'm just sick and tired of this. Okay. All right, wash your hands and frequently and use antibacterial wipes, sanitizers, and etc. So probably we're what, second year in the pandemic, so we probably will all know about this. Maintain social distancing of at least 6 feet. So that I see that there is quite a bit of a number of class students in this class, so this can get a little hard, but we'll try our best to follow social distancing. If you or someone close to you test positive for COVID-19, inform your instructor, me, and follow the CDC guideline for self-isolation and also testing. And also, it is important for you to inform your advisor as well. And if we are unable to meet face-to-face, please be advised that you are expected to actively participate in class via Moodle. Like I said, I will give you an alternative assignment. This may include live instruction using etc. So I hope that this does not happen, but I don't think this is going to happen. We already been there, and then and this is our third pandemic, right? Third wave. So I don't think we're gonna get into that. But if things get really bad, we might convert to the full online. I really hope that that does not happen. All right, so next is email. I will be available via email throughout the semester, and I check my email daily. Actually, I check my email every 15 minutes. So if you're anticipating an email response from me, but do not receive one within 24 hours, you should resend your email. You don't have to be extra polite about it. You can just forward the same email to me, and I'll know that, oh, I missed your email. So when sending an email, make sure to follow business email etiquette. I know that this is something that some of you probably haven't learned, but just Google it and just follow the format. It is very important lesson to learn this. And please be sure to provide your full name as well as your course and section number. So if you send me an email, hello Mr. Han, I missed my blah blah blah, can I make it up? And without telling me your name or course number or course section number, I will have hard time trying to find out where you belong, which class you belong. So make sure that you always mention your name, full name preferably, and also which class that you're in. So for instance, this class is ART171 section 01. All right, after that is all the university stuff and things that university requires me to include into my ICR. And this is important students with disabilities. So if you are in this, make sure to contact the Dr. Christina Snell at this number right here. So if you have any kind of circumstances or health problem that prevents you from successful completion of this course or following the course material, make sure to read this right here and then contact the Dr. Snell with this number or this email. Alrighty, that is it with the ICR, and then we're gonna get into the quick lecture on the visual elements, and then after that we're gonna have a small icebreaker assignment. So this is going to be a group assignment. Yes, group assignment can be quite difficult in a lot of ways. It can get a little awkward, or you can be grouped with someone who just don't care about anything. But still, I think group assignment is a great way to kind of get to know each other. All right, so let's get right into the lecture. All right, so before we get into the lecture, let's talk about the required materials for this class. So these are the required materials, and of course, required supplies. Of course, there are going to be different things, such as like a box cutter or scissors and glue, etc. But I feel like you probably already have that, so I didn't include it into the kit. So if you go to the bookstore and ask for the supply kit for ART121, you should be able to get these supplies from the bookstore. So that includes like a ink pen, 0.3 millimeter tip. We are going to be using this quite a lot. So if you can find it somewhere for cheaper price but same quality, make sure to get one or two more. And another thing is this a sketching pencil set. So this includes HB2, I think it's like a F, and also 8B. So this is important to have. And another thing is professional level color pencil. So this is going to be included. And most important is the sketchbook. So we are going to be, so your weekly assignment and a lot of different assignments will be done in this sketchbook. And I will be grading your sketchbook as well weekly. So make sure to have this sketchbook. But if you already have a sketchbook that is similar in size, you're more than welcome to use that. But I think this mixed media sketchbook works really great for what we're going to be doing, because we're going to be using different types of media, such as like ink or color pencils or watercolor and etc. We're going to be doing a lot of the collage as well. So I feel like this kind of a thick paper mixed media pad is going to be very useful. So if you wish to purchase this individually, that's totally fine. But if you just want to get it from the bookstore as a kit, that is also fine as well. But actually, I strongly suggest you to do that, so that we don't have any like a confusion between the students and also between you and I. All right, so let's get to the lecture. All right, so let's take a look at the lecture. Give me 1 second. All righty. So in this lecture, we're going to take a look at these. We're going to quickly talk about the visual elements. If you've already taken ART171, these might sound very familiar, but still it'll be a good review. So make sure to pay attention. And this is going to be directly related to the small assignment that we're going to be doing in this class, today's class. So make sure to pay attention to this lecture. So in this lecture, we are going to talk about these 4 points: identifying types of lines. Actually, we're going to have to take a look at the points first, and then identify types of lines, explaining how artists create shape and mass, describe how real and implied line functions in art, and discuss the strategies of creating space into the art. So let's get right in. All right, so the simplest visual element is a point. A point is a basic mark, such as a dot, a pixel, or brushstroke. So when point is added to a blank canvas, designers can create a separation between this basic visual element and the surrounding space. So in this section, we will look into 2 types of points. First, a focal point, which is the primary point of interest in a composition. By size, compositional location, orientation, or color, a focal point activates the design and thus attracts the attention of the viewer. A collection of points is called an array, so we can create rich textures and entire images using an array. So let's take a look at the focal points. So when you take a look at this design, well, what is the first thing that you see? So here the designer used this point, this circle right here, and then he included the designer included this letter in here, so that this is the first thing that we see. So creating this nice visual hierarchy. So we look at think first, and then think, point, and then he creates a design in a rather more dull color, so that we read in this order: think first, and then point, and then design. Another example of focal point is here by the location of this white circle or empty space right here. We can see that our eyes first lands right here, and then we kind of take a look at this small circle here as well. So this is acting as a really nice focal point. And here it gets a little bit more difficult. This is more of a good example for an array. So you can see how different points in a repetitive motion in an array can create an overall composition or design. In this case, a letter M, which is for this company. All right, so let's dive deeper into these 2 topics. So first, a collection of points is called an array. We can create rich textures and entire images using an array, like we said, like the example that we looked before. So an array of points can create an entire image while retaining the energy of the individual parts, which is individual elements, which is the points. So in this example, right over here, the artist combined images of hundreds of everyday people to create the image of then American President Barack Obama. So I think this is conceptually strong work of art, regardless of any political stances, because through this way of portraying the figure, the image suggests that this political figure is a man of people rather than a remote politician. So here the main subject of the artwork, which is the facial of this, the face of this, the president, ex-president of the United States. It is created through a lot of different points in an array, resulting in a very unique and creative visual composition. And also it packs the very heavy conceptual meaning behind it as well. So I think this is very strong work, regardless of the political stances, of course. And now let's take a look at how designers and artists can use the focal point. So we said the focal point is kind of an activation point into an artwork. So this is a good example of clever use of focal point. So this poster is designed by Jan Chickold. His name is so weird, so I'm not too sure this is the right pronunciation, but I don't think no one can actually pronounce his name. But I just decided to just call him Chickold because it's easier to pronounce. But anyway, in this design, the focal point, which is the point where the viewer's attention lands first, is clearly defined by the complete isolation of the element. So where do you think the focal point is? What is the first thing you see when you look at this design? Of course, this is a heavy letter that we see is first thing that we see. So, because humans like to look at the information that's easier to process first. So, the letter is the first thing that we see, but also this is accentuated by including this circle around it. So, just by isolating this element right here, the designer cleverly created the focal point so that he created this very strong visual communication hierarchy. So in the circle, the designer included the title, which is the most important information that he wants to communicate through this design. So like I said, creating a strong visual information hierarchy is crucial when it comes to communication art, or in other name, graphic design. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at simpler examples. So in these two designs, you can see a point or a dot is used to create, actually dots are used to create two different compositions, two different but yet quite similar. So on the left, you can see the points are in repetitive array, creating a visual aesthetic composition through this heavy sense of this unity and also repetition. However, there is no clear focal point for this design. When we first take a look at this design, there's no clear point where our eyes lands first, because all the elements are identical and then they are arranged in a very clear repetitive array. On the other hand, on the right, you can see there is incorporation of variety, but still the same elements, the dots are used, and they are still in this kind of a more random array. But still, it is kind of hard to see hard to judge where the focal point is, where our eyes lands to first. So it is that the scientists say that we like to take a look at the center first. But in this case, there is no clear center, both vertically, horizontally, or diagonally. So this is in both designs, there is no clear focal point. So in these two designs, the balance between unity and variety is the main focal point of this composition, rather than just one element. Right, so now let's talk about the focal point. So how can one create a strong but unique focal point? So a focal point, or just a point, actually does not necessarily have to be a dot or just a mark. A dot or a point can be created if you align other elements in certain ways, like the example that you're looking at right here. So viewers can clearly tell where is the focal point and how it is used to complement the composition. So let's take a look at the difference between these two. So these two very different use of focal point. So placement plays a very strong role in indicating focal point when you are designing a composition. So in previous example by Chickold to the right, he intentionally offsetted his focal point towards the bottom right corner to create this very tasteful visual imbalance. However, the example on the left, the focal point is heavily accentuated not only by the surrounding elements, but by its placement. In this case, the dead center of the composition is centered in both vertically and horizontally, thus creating a much stronger focal point. Like I said, we tend to look at the center first and then try to look around. To the design left, it is almost too easy to spot a focal point, right? Because it's located in the dead center. Has a heavy contrast between this white area, and also is surrounded by these different alien elements. So yeah, this is very easy to spot. Whereas this is a little bit more difficult, but still is quite very easy example. So that leads to a line, which is the second simple visual elements. So line is one of the simplest and most versatile elements of design, and line may be defined as these three. So orientation, direction, degree of continuity. Strictly defined, or as physicists would say, a line is a two-dimensional path traced by a moving point. So the first definition emphasizes the unique dynamism of line. The remaining two definitions emphasize its connective power of line. So if you take a look at the first right here, lighter and more fluid than any of the other visual elements, line can add a special energy to a design. And simply by drawing a line, we can activate a space, define a shape, or create a compositional bridge. So each line has its own distinctive quality. This quality is largely determined by the line's orientation, these 3 points, direction, and degree of continuity, and by the materials used as well. Excuse me. All right, so orientation refers to the line's horizontal, vertical, or diagonal position. So diagonal lines and curving lines are generally the most dynamic, meaning implying the most visual movement within the composition. So diagonals and curved lines are charged with energy, and they suggest action and movement, and also precariousness time to time. Then how about this? What about this? When you take a look at this photograph, do you feel energized? Does this photograph appear dynamic? Does it have any precariousness to it? What kind of orientational line do you see here? So horizontal lines imply the feeling of stability and calmness, and it is the most common visual line that we encounter in our lives, because when things are in horizontal orientation, they are most stable. So horizontal lines evoke the sense of a calm and soothing visual experience, and designers can use this to their advantage to make their design evoke certain types of emotions from the viewers. And also it can be used as a conceptual language to create some kind of a visual identity or corporate identity when it comes to like graphic designers. However, just by including a lot of horizontal lines, that you can't just create the feeling of stability. Horizontal lines can also evoke dynamic movement, and also this feeling of precariousness when they are arranged in a certain orientation. So in this design, you can see there is a clear use of repetition of horizontal lines, but in a vertical array. So this is interesting because it combines both verticality and the horizontal lines to evoke two very different visual effects. But I think if you just take a look at the horizontal lines, they look very stable, but at the same time, it is oriented in a vertical way that it feels like is about to tip over. So it has this kind of a dichotomy of these two different visual emotions. All right, so vertical lines imply potential change, meaning that its precarious nature can be altered and release its potential energy. So what I mean by potential energy, is that you can think of it as a ball sitting on top of a hill, and once its stable position is disturbed, for instance, someone kicked it, or something wind blew over or something like that, now it is in motion, packing much more energy than before when it was just standing still. So you can think of it as another example is the domino blocks waiting to be pushed to release their potential energy and cause a significant event. However, when vertical lines adhere to the edge of the design, as you can see on the left side of the example, they become tethered and thus lose their potential energy and mobility, losing most of its aesthetic or the visual indication of potential energy. Whereas free-floating verticals seem ready to be toppled at any time, any moment, to release their potential energy, thus appearing more dynamic. So on the left, all these lines, not only they are more thicker, but they are tethered to the edge of the frame right here, and also that is accentuated by including this darker shade of gray just to kind of indicate that, just kind of create a visual weight on here, and it kind of looks like a rebar sticking into the concrete block, but I don't know, but it appears much stable than here, where all these black lines are spaced even spaced more further, and also they're thinner, but it is also up and also floating, but there is no like a strong indication of this visual weight on the bottom, whereas it's located on the top. So this, it is not very obvious, but still this appears much more dynamic or precarious than this on the left right here. All right, so let's talk about the direction. So direction refers to the implied movement of a line. So designers can use line weight to accentuate its direction, as you can see on the example B and C, actually A and C, A, B, C, where thicker lines emphasize its direction more than the thinner lines. If you see the example A, you can notice the swelling lines such as forward or outward movement, and shrinking lines such as inward movement. Just kind of like a thunder kind of looking thing. So this appears that it is going inward. This right on the left bottom right here, it appears that it's escaping out of the frame. We can find directional lines playing an important role in this photograph by Henri Cartier-Bresson about this photograph of this small Italian village. You can see the strong directional line is happening through the interesting architecture of the scenery. And take a look at the stairway and the fence, and etc. So it is diagonal lines that are used as a guide to lead viewers' attention to different parts of the photograph while creating a very dynamic and vibrant movement. So that example is more evident in this poster by Paula Scher. Paula Scher is well known for her design for big corporates, at the same time her clever use of typography, which is the using the letters into her visual design. So in this poster, she incorporates a lot of diagonal to imply dynamic movement and energy into her design. So she also incorporated different use of color to accentuate the movement and the vibrancy of the overall design as well within her design, making it more vibrant and dynamic. And also this clever placement and then the orientation of this letter following this very defined lines also helps to create this dynamic movement. This is another example. So this is the poster created by Joseph Mueller-Brockman, who is famous for his use of grid. So here we can also see use of diagonal lines to implement dynamic movement and energy gain. But where it appears more calculated, and it looks like he used like a ruler to draw this. That is because Mueller-Brockman is very strict about his use of grid and certain types of rules. So a lot of times his design appears very calculated and also at the same time very clean and minimalist. So through including diagonal lines, Brockman introduced variety within order, disorientation within organized matter. So this dichotomy creates a very interesting visual effect and create a very unique viewing experience from the viewer. So I think this is very strong design here. All right, let's talk about the directional lines and movement. So this is another example by the Paula Scher. Here the movement is more organic, meaning it is not bounded by the grid or like a rigid lines or anything like that. We saw from the Brockman's design. Still, it includes heavy amount of visual movement and dynamic composition. So the previous example is more rigid and appears to be measured and calculated, whereas this example it's more freely organized and uses a lot of organic direction to organize the visual communication. So Paula Scheer and Miller Brockman's design is very different, but still they are playing with the very similar principle of design and the visual elements, which is diagonal lines and also the visual movement here. Right, so excuse me. Now let's talk about the continuity of lines. So continuity or linear flow can enhance direction. So example D shows that the continuous line tends to generate a stronger sense of direction than broken jagged line you see on the example B and C. And also the lines goes out of the frame, so that kind of like indicates that there's a more to it outside of the frame. So that is another way of packing more dynamic movement within the composition. All right, so this is a drawing by Swiss artist Walter Giacometti. So notice the continuity of his lines and how it impacts the overall look of his drawing. So he's very famous for this kind of a very continuous line drawing. And if you go to university and study like a figure drawing, a lot of times a lot of professors include this type of the exercise. So I don't know why they do it, but I think it's kind of help you understand how lines can be used to define a shape or space. So here, back to Giacometti, here he completed the drawing without any disruption of line, meaning the line is all continuous, and resulting in a very unique yet chaotic visual effect, which he is very famous for. Here is another example by Brockman. He used the very clever way of constructing the letter B with an array of shapes in a circular direction. What I mean by that is, if you see right over here, this is actually the letter B, and to create a letter B, he created these elements in a circular array, and then he encapsulated this text inside of this letter B, which stands for title right here. Here again, we can see the visual movement in more measured manner, which is the iconic style of Brockman. So he organized the elements to create a letter B, and then he included the visual communication, the center point of the circular movements, thus resulting in a very clear defined visual communication hierarchy here again. All right, so let's take a look at the implied lines. So in addition to actual lines, linear forms, and lines formed by edges, our eyes also pick up lines that are only implied. So this is a lot of times when we talk about it, we talk about the gestalt psychology as well, but that is something that we're going to get into later on. So I'm just going to skip that. So a common example is the dotted line, where a series of dots are spaced closely enough that our mind just connects them and then register it as just one continuous line. So if you take a look at this example, you can see there's this swirling line going from either from here or there to kind of connecting something like this. So artists use this to their advantage. So the 18th century French painter Jean-Antoine Watteau created a sort of dotted line of subjects figures in this work of art. So starting with the city couple at the right, our eyes trace a line that curves in a gentle curve and leaves us evaporating into the hazy air to the left. Here is a little bit simpler example. So here, how many implied lines can you see? So the implied lines are created through the vertical black lines and by the careful placement of the gaps between the lines. So what I mean by that is not only our minds connect these lines, this this individual lines into one, but also the gaps, the clever placement of these gaps, we also kind of create a white line that is oriented in diagonal orientation. So our eyes connects these implied connection and create imaginary lines, despite they are clearly separated. Another example of implied line here, but with the help of color. So when you look at this design, in which direction the implied lines are oriented? So they appear to be oriented diagonally, but in fact, the dots itself, if we just get rid of the colors, they are just aligned side by side without any diagonal placement. Here again, our mind grouped the dots by color and then connect them into a line in our head, and then we recognize this line as diagonal lines. So this is another example, a good example of implied lines here. All right, last but not least, let's talk about shape. A shape is a flat enclosed area. It is a two-dimensional form which occupies an area with identifiable boundaries. So boundaries may be created in these four ways. So first, enclosing an area with a continuous line, which is the example number A, and surrounding an area with other shapes, example B, filling an area with solid color or texture, example C, filling an area with gradiated color or texture, which is example D right here. So let's take a look at this artwork by Pablo Picasso, Les Demoiselles d'Avignon. Here, the figures are represented in rather flat three-dimensional shapes, which is an intentional move that many Cubist painters embraced. So the shapes are simplified, and the combination and positioning of these shapes result in the form of figures within the composition. So if you take a look at this, just one figure right here, if you just analyze it one by one, all of these are just very simple flat shapes. But by in a clever placement and also orientation, he can define the overall shape, and which translates into this kind of a woman's figure. Here we can see American graphic designer Paul Rand's design and his clever use of shapes to construct his composition. So he incorporated simple squares in different vibrant colors to disarray viewers' attention, while subtly include an isolated shape that you can see on the right side of the design, which is this small tiny little honeybee right here. So this isolated variety evokes curiosity and pulls the viewers closer to the design. And also by kind of using similar shapes and then just kind of placing a random order, it disrupts the clear focal point. So that is also which creates this kind of a chaotic feel to it at first, but when we take a look at it, we kind of see the unity, which is the same shapes and also different variety in the colors and etc. And there's like a text located right here. So it evokes curiosity, and then if your design evokes curiosity, there's better chance that the viewers actually take more attention to your design. So I think this is very simple. So almost looks very elementary school kind of thing, but still I think it's very clever design. Another example of Rand's clever use of shape. So this famous poster for, can someone read this? Does recognize this letter right here? So what is this? It is an I, and what is this? It's a B, and this is letter M. So it's IBM. Well, this is more related to the study of science, semiotics. However, we can still see his ingenious way of implementing these different shapes to construct a single element, in which case, the letter, not necessarily the letter, but the corporate identity, the IBM. So shapes are everywhere. We encounter them all the time without actually knowing. So all of these logos for different companies and corporates and brands are created through rather simple shapes, yet packs a very strong visual aesthetic and conceptual meanings. So if you, one of the most iconic logo of 21st century, I think it has to be this YouTube button right here. So what is this? This is actually, it's a play button and all, but if you analyze it one by one, this is actually like a shape of a TV screen, and also this is the play button, that play icon that we are so familiar with. So this is just a TV screen and a play button, so indicating that it is a company that deals with like a video content. And here Instagram is also in this kind of a curved square with this kind of a look of this camera. This looks like a Polaroid camera. It has this red sensor right here, and windows right here, the logo for Windows, it actually looks like an actual window. And target, of course, is definitely a target, so on. So this very clever use of simple shapes can be very strong in both visually and also conceptually. So let's take a look at the FedEx logo. So can anyone spot the right arrow between the letter E and X? So if you take a look at this right here, between this letter E and X, you can see this right arrow indicating that they are always in motion. Also, the letter D and E are combined but appear separated. So how is that done? So through this heavy difference between the colors. So actually, this color blue and this orange, I think is very close to the complementary color. So through that, we can see this as a one element right here, and then second element right here, and that's how we actually read this letter, right? FedEx, right? So another clever use of simple visual elements is this Amazon logo. So here the orange line appears to be some kind of a smiling face. However, it also connects the letter A to Z, indicating that the company sells everything that customer needs, A to Z, so to say. Alrighty, so that is how shapes are everywhere in our daily lives, and that is it for today's lecture. So this was a crash course for the topic. However, I think it was a good one just to familiarize you with the basic concepts of the visual elements for today's exercise. And we are obviously going to take a look at this in more depth through the different exercises and projects next week. We might have more additional lecture on this, but I don't think there is going to be any like a 30-minute lecture like we did today. So let's jump right into the exercise. All right, so this is going to be a very simple assignment. It shouldn't take too long to complete. So with the to follow up with the lecture, we're gonna do a small group exercise. So let's take a look at it. So assignment requirements. So you're going to be walking around the campus and take at least 2 photographs for each topics listed below. So all these topics we just covered. So for instance, point, focal point, array, and etc. And line, curved, angular, horizontal, verticals, and so on. So you should be familiar with these concepts. But if you're not, I suggest to take a look at the lecture video game. And you can also Google the base visual elements, and it'll give you a plethora of information on this topic. All right, so second, each photograph must be unique in both subject matter and topic, meaning that you can't just use the same photo for different topics. And also you can't just find some photos from Google and just include it into your assignment. And third, you can stage your photograph. So that means that you can move things around and juxtapose the subject matter, etc. But if you move certain things around, make sure to put it back into its original state so that we don't disrupt anything. And four, put them in the instead of renaming the files, put them in a nice slideshow, in a PowerPoint slideshow or Google slideshow. And make sure to label them each photographs. So for instance, if you took this photograph for a curved line, make sure to put a text indicating that it is the photograph for the curved line. So like I said, this is a group project. So one of you can just take a photograph, and just one of you can be in charge of the putting the slideshow together. But if you want to work together, you can come back to the classroom, and then you can use the computers located to your left. All right. Okay, and also make sure to not disrupt other classes. Try to be quiet and try not to be obnoxious in the hallway because there are other classes happening. So very important that you don't get into trouble. So try to be quiet, be mindful of other classes. All right, so let's take a look. So visual elements, I want you to take a photograph of, photograph that indicates the focal point. So let's take a look at some examples that previous students that. So okay, so for instance, this is the this, I believe this was for curved line. Come on. So you can see there is a nice curved line, and also I think it could be for like a repetition as well. So don't try to think too hard. This is, I want you to just think very simple. So for instance, this, what do you see? You see a vertical line, right? Also you see an angular line here. So it can be very simple. And here, what do you see? A repetition of this, lines at the same time, horizontal lines as well. Here, it can also vertical lines. Also, it can be like an implied lines as well. So just kind of connecting these pillars, right, and so on. So this is very you're supposed to think the very simple. You don't overthink. And I'm not going to show you more because you're just going to go this place and then take a photograph, right? So I'm just going to close this down and try to get them all, at least just one photograph for all of them. And there are certain topics that we haven't covered, such as unity, variety, and movement. So for that reason, I included like a definition to it. So this, you don't have to be correct, but still try to take a photograph that has a that highlights these three principles of design. So I want you to work on this on the for the rest of the class. And if you complete it early, you can leave early. Or if you run out of time, you can always kind of work individually. For instance, if you don't finish it in class time, you can divide this up so that between four of you. So one person can do the three of them. Actually, three person can do like two of them and so on. And then one person can be in charge of the putting everything together into a slide and etc. So yeah, this is going to be the first assignment, and this is a graded assignment. So make sure to complete it, and this is due by the beginning of the next class, which is Tuesday. So make sure to finish it by Monday night so that you can bring it on to the Tuesday class, and we're going to take a look at your photographs. So I understand this is the first day of the class, so a lot of you don't know each other. So I'm just gonna group you together by alphabetical order. So Ray and Brianna, Faith and Jatanya Davis. I'm not sure if I read your name, pronounced your name right, but four of you are grouped together. And then Andrew, Paris, Haley, and Dylan, you are group B. And Selena, Mira, Kimberly, Warren, sorry, and Ryan, you are group C. So there are three groups. Once again, Ray, Brianna, Faith, and Titania, group A. Andrew, Paris, Haley, Dylan, group B. Selena, Amira, Kimberly, and Ryan, you are group C. Alrighty, so I want you to get started right away. Like I said, don't get in trouble. Try to be mindful of other classes, and finish it. Put it in a nice slideshow with a label for each photograph, and then we'll take a look at this on Tuesday class. Alrighty, and make sure to, if you leave early, if you finish this early, make sure to use the extra time to just visit the bookstore and then get the required supplies, because we are going to be using it quite soon. Actually, I'm thinking of using the supplies on Tuesday, so make sure to get those supplies as well. And if I forgot to cover any kind of announcement or points, I will be sending out an email on your phone. So if you have any questions, well, actually I can't answer it because by the time you guys are working on it, I'll be on a flight. But anyway, if you have any questions over the weekend, I should be arriving in the United States on Thursday night. So I had to pay extra for business class, but whatever. I'll sure enjoy flying business the first time actually. But anyway, if you have any questions, just send me an email and I should be able to answer you after Friday morning. Alrighty, and I'll see you guys next Tuesday.